Alright, I have a relatively short how-to video for you today. This is the Glock 41. This is the 45 ACP from Glock that's built for competition. They only forgot one thing, and I was curious about why they would have forgotten it when they spec this gun out and when they make them, but that is the slide stop. Slide stop is a standard, not the extended version. The extended slide stop is the one you would find on the Glock 34, Glock 35, and again, that's more of a competition-oriented slide stop. It just gives you a little better reach to it. So I thought, well, you know, that's an easy enough issue to correct, so let's do that. And I'm going to show you how to swap out the slide stop on your Glock pistol if you've never done that or seen it done. So first thing we're going to do, we have an empty gun, but we're going to verify that. Okay, so to do this, first step is remove the slide. We don't need the slide, and we'll just move that completely out of the way. So we have just the frame of our pistol, and we need only our Glock punch, or the Glock tool, as you'll often hear it referred to. And we're going to remove a couple of pins. Now when you remove the pins on a Glock frame, you always want to go counterclockwise, starting with the top pin, then the bottom pin, then the rear pin. I like to remove the pins from the left to the right and install them from the right to the left. Okay, so I've removed the top pin. That is the locking block pin. The next pin below that is the trigger pin. This really holds in the trigger group, and it also holds the slide stop, and we'll see how that is held in there in a minute. But one thing to note, first of all, if your pistol is relatively new or if it's never been disassembled to this degree, these pins aren't going to just fall right out. You're going to have to use a little bit of elbow grease, but be careful not to use too much. When you're removing this lower pin, this trigger pin, you need to hold the slide stop, and what I usually do is just sort of get my hands filthy. I'll hold the pistol like this in my right hand with my index finger on the inside of the slide stop, and then I can put my thumb on the outside. The reason is I'm going to want to wiggle that back and forth as I put pressure on this pin. I'll show you why in a minute. There we go. This Glock 41 has never been detail stripped, so this is the first time these pins have been removed, and they are snug when they've never been removed before. So once I've done that, then I can just slide that slide stop right out of the pistol, right out of the frame. Now let me show you why we had to wiggle that like that. If you see, let me show you a little bit why we have to do that. You can see that there are rings, there are detent rings, 2 of them on this pin, and the hole for the slide stop lever rests on that leftmost ring. So when you're trying to remove this pin, you've got to wiggle this slide stop back and forth so that it'll clear that, so that that groove will go to the center and let this pin clear. So that's why the wiggling, and that does make that a little extra challenging, especially again the first time when it's nice and tight. So we now take out our brand new extended slide stop, and the way this goes in is it fits right in here. There's a groove right alongside the trigger group. There's a groove right where that goes. Now when you put the slide stop back in. I'm going to hold this on the outside of the frame to show you. If I hold this and mimic how it's going to sit, obviously this is all going to be on the inside, but I'm going to line that up with that hole. Now, you see this spring. This is a little wire spring. That spring needs to be underneath the locking block pin, which is the top pin. In order to make sure that we have that, we want to put that locking block pin back in first. That makes this much easier. If we don't put the locking block pin back in first, we're going to have a really difficult time trying to get this spring down underneath it later. So, we take the locking block pin, and again, feeding from the right to the left, we reinsert the locking block pin. He goes in nice and easy. Okay, now we take the slide stop lever and we slide it in. There's a little slot that it goes into, again, right alongside that trigger group. It'll slide down in there, and when we look at it this way, we can see when our hole is lined up. Once we have that hole pretty well lined up, take our trigger pin from the right side, insert it, and we have to use that same sort of wiggle. Not quite as bad. It's a lot easier putting it in than it was taking it out. So we wiggle that a little bit, and we've got that pin in very nicely. Okay, we don't want our pins to extend on either side of the frame, so we push them in, get them below flush. We test to make sure that when we lift up the lever that it falls back down under spring tension, because if we had this in wrong, it would want to stand up like this and not go down. We would have to put it down by tension. That would be the opposite. That would make this a one-shot pistol, because every shot you fire, the slide would lock back. Okay, so there we have it. That's it. I mean, that's literally as simple as that. So here's our original one, and we're just going to set that aside as a spare part. We now have the extended slide stop lever installed, and we'll put the slide back on the pistol. Do a function test. There we have it. Okay, so there it is. If you want to replace the standard slide stop lever on your Glock 41, or any other Glock for that matter, I personally, on a carry gun, I wouldn't use the extended because of the extra extension that sticks out here. And for, most other type of duty or home defense type guns, I don't really worry about it either. But for any pistol I'm going to shoot competitively, I definitely appreciate having the extended slide stop, because it allows me to manipulate that a lot easier without changing my grip. Remove the slide. Just like that. You just let it fall.